You see me? Hi, Harry. Thank you. I know we're on air. You're listening to the show on 103.5 FM WNHH, NewHavenIndependent.org. My name is Michelle Turner, and I have the good fortune of being your host. And once again, we're here on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget, the show will air tomorrow at 10 a.m. and again at 6 p.m. I come on behind my good friend and squatty, Babs Rawls Ivy. Today in the studio, in case you don't know, there's a New Haven institution that will be taking place in New Haven this Saturday, the 8th, starting at, I believe, is it Lisa, 10 a.m.?
11 a.m.
11 a.m. I keep reversing it. But the New Haven Folk Festival takes place this Saturday at Edgerton Park in New Haven. Edgerton Park is a beautiful, spacious, green spot that is one of the jewels when it comes to New Haven and its parks. And the Connecticut Folk Festival is celebrating its 8th year there. In the studio with me is Lisa Caston, board member, Vice President of Development and Community Outreach. She's over there in the corner. Hey, Lisa. Isabella Mendez. She is a vocalist, keyboardist, composer, and she performs Brazilian bossa nova and American jazz. She's a super person, engineer by day, performer by night. Dun, dun, dun. Tabisa, who I love. She is the vocalist who performs South African and world music, including pop and jazz. She is known as a community volunteer and an educator. Eric Ray, who you probably really can't see, but probably can at some point because Harry's just good like that. He is a conga player, percussionist, educator, and life coach. And I hope I pronounce his name correctly. Here we go. Quado Ade?
It's Kwejo Adai.
Kwejo Adai, like the comic Franklin Ajay, but Adai. Yeah, he's like, what is she talking about? Visual artist, educator, and community advocate. Welcome everybody to the show. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this event, telling us what it's all about. So,
Thank you.
Lisa, I'm going to go to you first. All right? I'd like to know a little bit about the Folk Fest. Tell us a little bit about its history.
Great. Thanks, Michelle. So I actually we did sort of a review this past year and realized that this year, the Saturday, September 8th festival is actually the 26th annual festival.
Wow.
It's, if we include the precursor, which is actually basically CT Folk, New Haven Folk, is a descendant of
Yes.
the Eli Whitney Folk Festival.
Right.
Which went back as far as 26 years ago. In those early years, we had Odetta as our headline act.
Yeah.
And this year, we fast forward, we have Morton Sexton as our headline act.
Mm-hmm.
Other folks right before him, the other headliner is Alternate Roots, and then there's Upstate and Jesse Terry Trio. And then in addition to the folks that are booked through a committee, we also have what's called the Grassy Hill Songwriting Circle, which we're able to bring to you partly because of the benefactory, the philanthropy of Grassy Hill Songwriting Circle and that group. And the winner of that actually next year will have a main slot at the festival. So this year there are 3 finalists, and those finalists are judged by a live group.
Oh, nice.
And so those folks will be here, as well as the winner of our audition, which this year is Plywood Cowboy. In addition to the music, there's just a ton of activities for folks to do. And as you say, Michelle, it's really a beautiful park. We now have the go-ahead that the weather gods are with us. We hope for beautiful weather, but it is a rain or shine event. So starting at 11 a.m., we also have a Green Kids Village, which last year Tabisa was part of. So in addition to their wonderful group that featured Tabisa and Eric Ray, she also did, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that, but I was fascinated when I saw this on your video, that she actually does this gumboot dancing routine, gumboot dancing rather, where she teaches kids and adults, if they're willing, to do gumboot dancing, which was used partly as code during apartheid years in Soweto. And I guess you channel Miriam Makeba pretty well too, so that was really fun. And then we have Cyril the Magician at the Green Kids Village. Lots of other music, as well as recycling, composting workshops. Lastly, we have, of course, who could not survive the day without our wonderful food trucks? We have Lalabella there, crepes, Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and we're all getting kind of hungry because I think we're hungry right now, and a wine and beer tent. So, and those have sponsors as well. The expo, the Green Expo, which is also part of this, that hasn't been around for 26 years, but for a good amount of years. We have vendors and exhibitors that come in and showcase their handmade artisan wear, as well as nonprofits in the community who tell you about co-housing, growing organic vegetables, a group called Promoting Enduring Peace, which is this year honoring Jackson Brown for their Peace Award on September 14th. And you should just, of course, come to visit them. So there's something for everyone, of course.
But this is part of CT Folk's mission, to really educate people about living green, being green, what that means. It's really an important part of what the Folk Festival is. So you do have a little village, if you will, for young people. And can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. That's exactly right, Michelle. That's kind of a sub-mission of ours, besides, showcasing emerging and established artists, musicians, also to just be good stewards of the planet. And I think that's one of the reasons why we started the Green Expo. One of the features of that, which we also tell the kids about, and everyone knows about this, is that we try to be a zero waste event, which means that everything gets composted or recycled.
Which is great.
Yeah, it was one of my volunteer events. I actually manned the garbage machine station a few years ago, and I learned a lot.
I was going to say, you probably learned a lot and saw a lot.
Yeah, and when Lexi, the composter, she's the expert that does this, came by, she would say, you're doing that wrong. So it's like, okay, we figured it all out. And the kids learn because they do have a composting workshop. There's also a worms workshop in terms of why the worms are important in the ground. And so it really is pretty key. Another one of our partners, the other thing is we really, this is where I met Isabella. I admired her from afar, but I met her at our acoustic garden party, which she and Tabisa and Eric participated in the past year. As one of our missions that you point out to be green, we partnered with New Haven Land Trust and New Haven Farms, and we had this April event in New Haven Farms, New Haven Land Trust Garden, which turned out to be kind of a blistery day. But we did have a good turnout nonetheless. That's that funky part of April, that last part of April.
Yeah.
And that was really also a commitment. It was a free event, which we also were able to do because we had a sponsorship from the International Association of New Haven, was to bring out the community and all its wonderful diversity and to showcase diverse music.
The diversity in the community.
Exactly. And New Haven Land Trust is going to continue to, both of them are going to be, and New Haven Farms are going to continue to be partners. And my quick shout out is the same day, last sentence, as New Haven, as the Connecticut Folk Festival. Hi, Justin. The Environmental Justice Summit will be happening at Yale University Art Gallery. And so we don't look at that as being competition. We look at that as another group.
As a partnership.
As a partnership. And after they finish their summit at 5 p.m., we're hoping that all you good scientists and concerned citizens will head over to Edgerton Park.
We'll join you at Edgerton Park.
So, thank you.
So the festival is not only just about folk music. It's blues, it's rock, it's zydeco, jazz, a little gospel, Celtic. So, Isabella, how did you become involved with the festival?
So Isabella has yet to be on the one of the festival stages.
Right.
We found her, and she agreed to participate at our acoustic garden party.
Okay.
So yep.
So, Isabella,
Yes.
I'd like for you to tell me why you chose to do this. I mean, you were asked, right?
Yes.
But what appealed to you in this?
Yeah, I got an invitation from.
Get close.
I got an invitation from Lisa to be part of the festival, and I was very excited when she told me, because I was never involved, as you mentioned, with the folk festival, but I enjoyed because of the community aspect of it, and also bringing diversity with other musicians. And one of the things that I'm doing with my new projects called the Bossa Nova Project is to bring diversity into the community, into schools, and into other events. And so the City Folk Festival was the perfect opportunity to get a head start on that.
Yeah, to give yourself exposure
Yes,
in what you're
absolutely.
doing. Yeah, how long have you been playing bossa nova?
A long time. I mean, I was born in Brazil. I've always been
Yeah.
exposed to bossa nova and Brazilian music. I've been playing piano since I was 4 years old.
Wow.
But I started my studies in bossa nova and jazz when I was a teenager, 15 years old.
So are you more visual or is it by ear?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a little bit of both.
And do you write your own music?
I do.
Ah.
I do. I write my own music, yeah, which is actually a mix of bossa nova with some jazz and with some pop and rock,
Mhm.
and all these different styles coming together, which is I enjoy a lot.
And we're gonna get you to hum a tune or two before this is over.
Great.
Now, Thabisa, I know because we bumped into each other in different spaces.
Yes.
We were both at a mapping class. She sat in front of me at the mapping class.
Yeah.
And I quietly sat there and was really into what I was doing. But we also had the fabulous opportunity to come together once again at a Midnight Noir,
Yes.
which was a reading of poetry hosted by the fabulous Ife Michelle Gardine,
That's
my squad member, but
Shout out.
also a New Haven arts guru. She has been a former house manager of Long Wharf Theater, and she also was community relations at the Schubert before they went public. She's also done things such as she ran a summer camp where students got the opportunity to work in the theater behind the scenes, and then took them to the National Black Theater and Arts Festival in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So Ife has done this. She has had her foot in arts for quite some time.
Yes.
But I believe I've seen you perform in other places
You think?
around New Haven. I think so. think I have. So what is your involvement in this? Why are you a part of it?
In this, as in the music, in this.
As in going to the folk festival? Because
Oh, yeah.
genuinely, I think most people, when they think of folk, they think of like Simon and Garfunkel, or, you know, different folks who are along that genre,
Yeah.
and not necessarily people who are performing jazz or
Yes.
bossa nova
Yes.
or pop or
Yes.
any of those things.
Yes.
So what drew you to this?
Okay, so thank you for the question, Michelle, and thank you for having us here today. So what comes into my mind whenever I hear folk music, I know people like to compartmentalize, put people into
And American folk is
boxes
different from South African folk.
That's right.
I know that. So let me just be clear.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. and I have in my life, especially when I started singing music that was jazz and folk as well. Because in jazz and folk, they're like brother and sister, or some sort
Yeah.
of relation to it.
Yeah.
Because for me, what folk music is to me, almost like blues and jazz, is like you
Mhm.
tell stories.
Correct.
Stories that you know, that you've experienced, or stories that you've been told by your forefathers, or
Mhm.
what it could be based on
Foremothers.
the belief. Yes. So I believe I tell stories in my music, and I believe even though I'm not necessarily a folk musician, but I have delved into folk music before, and I've enjoyed doing that. And I love telling stories of where I come from, and that's how we usually do it in our folk music, because we talk about the good times, the bad times, the crimes, the segregations, and all those things into our music, because that's the life we experience.
Well, that's
So-
like American blues, right?
Exactly.
Blues tells
exactly.
a story of a people. It talks
Exactly.
about the joy, the pain, the,
Mm.
being broke on Friday but hanging out Saturday night.
Exactly.
It's a combination of what life is for
Yes,
people.
That's right.
So when you start to talk about South African folk, let's face it,
Mm.
most of our R&B music is based on the ancestry coming from Africa.
Yep.
So it has a big, huge relationship.
That's right. That's right. And like like I said to you before, that I've started singing with a little bit of folk music, and that's how I got introduced into more genres. Starting there, and it was hard for me because I didn't think that was the kind of music I would want to go for.
How is singing jazz for you? Not to cut you off.
Yes.
Because singing folk, which is like blues,
Yes.
is totally different from singing jazz.
No,
it is
that's right.
definitely two different directions.
Definitely, exactly. So, but it was good for me because it sort of told me stories I didn't know about our grandmothers. How my grandmother used to enjoy her music was totally different different on how I was enjoying my music at the time.
Yeah.
But because of my band at the time, and it was an older group than I was, they would make me sing the songs, and it seemed like people in the community enjoyed hearing them because they wanted to sing along, and it was nostalgic for them. You know,
Yes.
whenever I would sing those songs. So, yeah. I forget my point, but yes.
And I just might want to add that in addition to the folk festival, the other reason we wanted to bring all these amazing artists together was to just brainstorm the broader question of how can we deepen and bring together our communities in in diversity in terms
And how'd
of
that idea come
deepen-
about?
yeah. How did it come about? Just that, the question that you just posed, actually, from the micro question of, what is folk? It's a very interesting question. And I don't know that anyone now knows the answer to that. Very excitedly, I'll just say, say this. We always have the Connecticut State Troubadour on our board.
Yeah.
And typically they are a traditional folk singer.
Correct.
This year, the Connecticut...
She is not.
She's not. Nikita
Yes.
Waller. And I'm really thrilled to say that she has accepted the offer to serve on our board.
That's fabulous.
She's an African-American woman who sings blues, gospel, probably a little bit of jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited that that's going to further inform CT Folk. But just getting back to the larger question, I think we all struggle with that, and we're all arts advocates. So I'm really happy, to just hear what everybody has to say about what do we do to bring diversity into our arts experiences. And I know for a fact that their different projects are what a lot of that's about,
Well, it
including our
seems-
visual artists.
The visual
Bart
artists, the
Fraser, too.
performers, the
Yeah.
songwriters,
Yeah.
the poets. In fact, Ife is getting ready to put together a Black Arts Collective,
Oh,
and they're going to meet at Stetson Library September 14th.
great.
I hope I'm not premature, but that is the plan. And I think for so long, when you started to talk about arts in New Haven, that it was very segregated.
Right.
You had folks who came in from the shoreline who wanted to enjoy arts, enjoy New Haven, and then get out. And you had local artists, particularly ones of color, who did not feel that they were included.
Mhm.
And a lot of them still don't. A lot of them still feel as if, there's not any space made for them, or people come to them when they need, as opposed to saying, we're doing this piece. I know you play this instrument. I know you play this instrument. Come on in. And instead, you have a lot of artists of color in the past who have been on the outside looking in, and who are New Haven natives. And so people have either done one of two things. Either they leave New Haven, or, they perform everywhere else, but not in their hometown. So Eric, in you coming into this as being an educator, life coach, musician, how does this feel for you? what is it about the festival and being honest about diversity that drives you to be involved?
Well, I think for me, part of it is what the essential question that's been put out today, which is the idea of what is folk actually, right? So I play conga, which is very much an Afro-Latino experience, and so for that is my folk music. That's what for me speaks to my ancestry, speaks to a very sort of ancient part of who I am, and it's my connection back to my folks, right?
And your folks are
Afro-Latino. So my
okay,
my mom
so
is
but
Puerto Rican.
yeah,
my father was black,
mm-hmm.
and so for me, it's very much that connection back to my heritage, which I think ultimately that's what the definition for me is. It's music that speaks directly to excuse me, heritage. And so that was really, when I thought folk festival conga. Oh, sure, yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting to see the crossover when you bring these different artists together. That's one thing I hadn't thought of when Lisa approached me and she said, "Come to the folk fest." I said, "Well, what do I have of folk?" But then when I started talking with Tapisa and then meeting some of the other artists, there's a lot of crossover within the music and the art and the purpose of what we do. So having us come together is just a really nice thing to expand into that diversity.
And I think, too, when you start to talk about that diversity, it also kind of opens the audience's mind as to what this music really is, or the different routes it takes in order to become what it is, and how it grows and changes. I think that's very important, because a lot of times what happens is that we get stuck in a box, and so we kind of delegate it to be this. Folk sounds this way, funk sounds this way, jazz is this. And it really is a divergence, Well,
some of that is sort of like the commercialization of an art form, right? The commodification of it. And I think this sort of, this movement is a recognition that the art is more than a commodity, right? It's bigger than that. But only if we allow it to be that, right? If we continue to let other people decide what the definitions are,
correct,
then we end up taking the short end of the stick. And I mean, people, all of us collectively, while corporations and so forth continue to kind of line their pockets with the blood, sweat, and tears that all of the artists around the table have put in to their craft.
Well, I mean, a good example of that, and to sidebar a little bit, is hip hop. I mean, the hip hop that I came up with and listened to all those many years ago is not the same thing now. And, I follow DJ Jazzy Jeff online, who is Jazzy Jeff of the Fresh Prince, which is Will Smith. And he said, he posted a picture of himself on Instagram where his eyes were like quarters, and he said, "If I hear another drum machine, I'm going to throw up. And when I get home, I'm throwing mine out." Just because, that it has morphed into something totally different and not necessarily positive. What I listen to and what's out there now are two different things, and they're very distinct. So that's just the thought. But now, with all of this said, who's performing? And what are you performing? And when are you performing? Do you have any idea as far as the festival stage? Are you all Eric and Ade? Are you not?
Not this year. That's why we're talking about this broader discussion.
Okay.
So it's a great question, and I think this is a great time for people to talk about what their current projects are and where they are. Will they be performing? Not outside of the festival.
All right. So who's performing where?
Well, my next performance is going to be with the Bossa Nova Project at the Monroe Festival,
Okay.
which is kind of similar to this. They bring all different artists together,
Mhm.
and we're performing in different places. One is a church, one is like an outside venue, but we're all performing different kinds of music and all different artists, and that's going to be October 7th.
Okay.
It's a Sunday.
All right.
That would be fun. Yeah, and it'll be nice because I'll get to meet some of the other artists, right? Because we play in different slots. So once I'm done with my performance, then I can go and see what other artists are doing. And again, it just continues to bring out this diversity and opportunity to meet other musicians.
And I recently saw you at the Next Door, and I know you
yes.
play around in different venues here in New Haven
Yes,
too, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Now, Mr. Ade,
Yes.
I'd like for you to tell me a little bit about your background and why, and why you're involved with the Folk Festival.
My background is that I'm a visual artist and muralist in town.
Ah.
My ancestry is from Ghana. Both my parents were born there. And I grew up in upstate New York until I was about 8. And then I moved to Connecticut. And I've been just I realized that New Haven was the place for art in this state.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of
We are the cultural capital.
And we damn well better be. We try, at least.
Indeed.
So I run the Adai Fine Art Academy, which is a drawing and painting school that's on 817 Chapel Street, the corner of Chapel and Orange.
Good plug. Good plug.
We teach drawing and painting, and we've been doing it for 13 years. It'll be 13 years on September 24th.
Okay.
And when I'm not teaching at my school or out into the community, I create murals. So I just got back from a 14-day mural project in Ecuador, where we did a mural with kids at a children's literacy center called Fundación Arte del Mundo, and we did a 7 by 50-foot mural down there.
Wow.
And then since about May, I've been working on the Women's Empowerment Mural Project on the Farmington Canal Greenway, and we will have the unveiling for that. The unveiling ceremony with Mayor Tony Harp will be on October 10th at 10 a.m. That's 10 at 10. And that is going to be unveiled to the community to get more people on the bike path, get more people used to the fact that public art is something that is in our city and something that people kind of need to have.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's very important.
I'm just here as another artist supporting other artists, because I believe in collaboration. I believe in this community, and I believe that no matter what your talent is, whether it's through song or dance or music, if it's art, cooking, if it's folk, we as artists need to be unified, and we as artists need to make sure that we're supporting each other, and we as artists need to make sure that when there's questions that come up about defining what it is that we do, that we are the first people to answer that question. We are the first people to say, this is what folk means to me, and this is what Bossa Nova means to me, and this is what public art means to me. We're the artists. So that's why I am here. I'm here to support. And I'm here to
and in asking, how did you discover that you were an artist and you knew that this is absolutely what you wanted to do?
I've been drawing and painting since I was 6.
Mm.
And it was always the thing that would calm my mind and make me really happy, just looking at all the colors, and you become the king of the world that you create, or the queen of the world that you create. And I got very used to
creating that world,
just creating and making sure that I was focusing on the beauty of this world and creating that with my hands in different ways and gaining just a different type of visual fluency. So whether that's portraiture or florals or abstracts or even these large-scale mural projects, it's all about visual fluency for me. So you can be musically fluent, you can be culinarily fluent, movement fluent, and everyone has it in them. So it's not an us versus them, like artists versus non-artists.
Right.
This is something within each and every one of us that can either be cultivated or ignored. And I am all for cultivation of collaborative work. The mural projects that I've done in New Haven in the last couple of years have been with people who do not consider themselves artists. It's important to bring people into your world and show them how one can do your world, how one can be a part of your world. So
tell us where one of your pieces are, a mural that you've worked on.
The Farmington Canal Greenway after October 10th will have two.
Uh
So
huh.
if you're on the bike path, you can look. I have one called Elm City Foot Race that has runners, and the Women's Empowerment mural depicts 17 women from all over the world, all in Statue of Liberty pose.
Wow.
I've got a mural at Marjolaine's Bakery of the Eiffel Tower.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a mural at Be Natural Cafe, which is next to Sherman's Alley in the back.
Yes. Yes.
It's called the Studio 6, which is
Yes.
reminiscent of the Yale students that study there. Yeah. And I have one at the West Haven Mental Health Clinic, which is where we run the young adult art group, making sure
Mhm.
that everyone has access to the arts there. I have one at, let's see, I did one at the Ninth Note, which is now
Yes.
Barcade. That one has been destroyed, but that's okay.
Oh.
It's okay. For the time that it was there, it was really beautiful and really wonderful. And I have other ones in India. We did a project at the APV school in
Mm.
Titigawa, northern India, and that was in 2015. And then we did 2 murals in Santiago Atitlan in Guatemala with children from a K through 8 school there. And then we just got back from Ecuador in Baños de Agua Santa, where we worked with Fundación Arte del Mundo. So here locally, I have 10 murals, and
Uh-huh.
internationally, we're up to 4.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. That is good
Very
to
much.
know. I think one of the things that is a best kept secret about this town is that I know from my old DJ days and working not only as a club DJ, but radio DJ, is there are a lot of musicians and artists from New Haven that are on a national and international level, and they come home to rest. And so consequently, when you go other places and you see their work or you hear them, it's like there's this pride that you have because these are my homies. These are people from here, you know? There was somebody who played with Talking Heads and Tina Turner who lived here for years. It's from New Haven. There was somebody who, there's a family actually, a couple of brothers who's played with everybody from Najee to Marion Meadows, who used to be the coat check guy at one of the clubs here. I mean, you know, somebody else worked with the Hawkins family in gospel. A couple of other people sing backgrounds for gospel music. Kerjama Choir here in New Haven. So there's just a lot of different people who do a lot of different work outside this community, but yet and still they don't get recognized in this community. And so as artists who are here, and you probably haven't been here long enough to experience it, but as you being engineer by day, artist by night, how do you really make it work? Because there's so many people, as this gentleman just said, there's so many people who are artists and they have it in them, but, you know, they're always told, you're not going to make a living that way. You're not going to be able to feed yourself that way. You're not even going to be able to afford a pair of shoes if you decide to be an artist. So how do you make it work for you? Anybody?
Finding that balance has been very challenging, and I love my job as an engineer, but nothing speaks to me like my art does, like music does. And for a long time I worked full-time as an engineer and then part-time as a musician, and the music always took
Precedence.
right. No, it was exactly like music always was on the side. And finally last year I decided to prioritize my music, and it's amazing what you can do and how creative you can get
Yeah.
in terms of finding work and finding that fulfillment that you can find with anything else, right? And I think a lot of it for me was eliminating that fear of, oh, I won't be able to feed myself, or I won't be able to buy a house, or I won't be able to do those things. But I've also been so much happier just putting the focus in what I truly love. And I feel that we're all meant to like find our purpose, right? So if we focus our intention in doing what we love and finding our purpose, then things will come to place. It won't be easy. It's never
Right.
easy,
It's never easy, right?
But it's also so much more rewarding when you find that, right? Because you know it's your calling. You know that that's what you're supposed to be doing, and things start to happen. But it's definitely a balance. It's a balance. But I'm happy to say that I
Gotta pay the bills too.
you gotta pay the bills.
You gotta
right?
pay the
have to-
You're
bills.
not getting these jobs from all these festivals.
Right,
So that's where the
absolutely.
money is for us to pay our bills in order for us to create more. We need to get this
Absolutely.
done.
And
need to
speaking
get
of
to
paying
work.
the bills, or not really, but you're listening to the show on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, broadcasting live from downtown New Haven. We're streaming live on TuneIn Radio and NewHavenIndependent.org. We're also streaming live video on Facebook Live. And all you have to do is go to facebook.com/New Haven Independent, or just go to your own Facebook page and look us up. Very simple. We're in the studio with folks from the upcoming Connecticut Folk Fest Green Expo and also some area artists. Some will be performing at the festival, which takes place at Edgerton Park this coming Saturday at 10 o'clock,
11 o'clock.
11 o'clock. Why am I reversing it?
Because it's okay. It's 11. It's 11 because it ends at 10 p.m.
It ends at 10, but it starts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
All right.
so it's all good.
But show up.
Yes.
Just show up. Support
there.
folk.
I
be
did.
there.
I did want to mention when we were talking. I loved what Quadro was just saying about getting us all involved, and that we should all think of ourselves somewhat as artists,
Mm-hmm.
even if we didn't play piano so well when we were in our teens.
Right.
And towards that end, actually, the assistant director of the CT Folk Festival, Michael Skirdick, also runs a glass studio in Seymour, Connecticut. And when I went to see an art exhibit of a friend of mine who was exhibiting that day, I took it as an opportunity also to take a glass-making class. And it was very
yeah.
exciting. And as a result of that, I will take a mosaic glass class with area artisan Beth Klinger, who was also my kid's math teacher. So it's amazing how people have
Teacher
these
by
different
day,
activities.
artist by night.
Yes.
And then just finally for me, the other aspect besides being musicians and artists is, how do we bring those audiences out to kind of maybe go out of their comfort zone a little bit and experience new types of art that may not be part of their, as Eric says, our own folk history, shake it up a little bit. One of the things that I do, and I wouldn't have done this a few years ago. I think it's getting old and maybe being more brave and not, worrying about seeming goofy,
Yeah.
is I'll take these folk festival cards and go into Whaley Avenue Shop and Stop.
Mhm.
And as I'm going through the fruit and vegetable aisle, I'll actually stop people and say, hey, here's a free festival. There is a suggested donation of $10
Yeah.
for adults.
Yeah.
But, come to it. You'll enjoy it, and, artisans, etc. And people really do enjoy being engaged, and they like being invited.
Well, I think
yeah.
Yeah, I think part of the process of the arts is stepping outside of one's comfort zone.
Mhm.
Really trying to take a look at what you're seeing, because, the old adage is, not everybody sees the painting the same way. Not everybody hears the song in the same way. It has a different meaning for everyone.
Mhm.
So when you start to talk about art, it does take people out of their everyday.
Right.
It does take people out of the norm.
Mhm.
And, sometimes people, like you said, you say, you step outside and you say, I'm going to go for it. Or, people are still reluctant. They may need a push.
Mhm.
But eventually they get to the point where they look, they see, and, they'll decide. Either it's something they enjoy or they don't, but at least they've had the experience.
Yeah.
They know.
And they might even be able to impact what that next iteration
Mm-hmm.
of that journey is going to look like. What's the next festival going to look like? What's
Right.
the next art mural going to look like, just by having part of that dialogue, too?
Well, I think the other thing is, too, we are in a new century.
Mhm.
And so being in this new century calls for a different way to look at things. Different ideas are kind of welcomed, as before, 20th century, certain things were shunned. You didn't do this. You didn't look this way. You didn't talk this way. You didn't act this way. Now, as children have been raised to accept others, as we open our minds a little bit more in this century, while there is some push and tug and struggle, we all know that, but we also know that we're more receptive to new ideas. I think we are.
Yeah.
I think over time it will develop even more.
Exactly. I think that's exactly right. And one other recent concert that Isabella performed at was the benefit for Unidad Latina en Acción on the shoreline. And out of that concert, which was a benefit for ULA, came something called the Resistance Chorus. So we're not getting too political here, but just to say that someone who also performed there, Sid Slaughterhoff, had the idea of let's all get out and sing together, and then we show up where we need to at protests and events. So
Well, I mean-
there is a little bit of interesting, I think more mixture now of arts and arts expression and really wanting to live our values and really show.
And I think
This is
too,
important.
hey, listen, songs of resistance have always been a part
Yep.
of people of color's music, of different revolutions, because it brings people together. You have that commonality. Everybody knows the song, right? Everybody knows the chant.
Right.
Everybody recognizes the drum beat.
Right.
So it brings people together in those common values. It really makes people gel. You kind of forget about looks, neighborhoods, how much money, where you live, all that. We're here for one common theme,
Also-
whatever that might be.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So I also had, just adding on what you guys are saying, and I thought some time ago, I was with my husband, and we are just talking about how we noticed that sometimes whenever we travel, whenever we go, we're invited to events, especially me, I get to go out and do these things because I think we agree that, I need more of the social and,
Yes.
and connection with people. So I tend to go on my own and do these things. So, but I always notice that it's either I'm going to a completely white crowd or to a completely black crowd. And like the last one we're in, and yes, I know it's focused on the black folks.
Yes.
And we do need those kind of events as well to uplift ourselves if nobody else is helping us.
Correct.
However, I do feel like it's important to remember ourselves on a bigger scale than just defining ourselves in the pigmentation, but
Right.
rather than we are human beings who actually need to learn from each other, like we are talking about in terms of the artistry, in terms of
Right.
awareness in things. We can't be, for example, we can't be just all black folks talking about the struggle, and the white people don't understand what the struggle is because they don't hear these conversations. They need to
Right.
be included, right?
Right.
And vice versa, right? Depending on situations, whatever we're talking about. So now in the arts, I feel like we need to be able to blend our artistry as artists. If Kweju is doing something, and I've said this to you before when you wanted to do your mural, if you were to need me, I'm here. Let me know, because I feel like other artists should be able to say that to
Right.
me,
Right.
or to volunteer their skills should I need it, right? And because I'm always open to helping out whenever they need me, whether they want to raise money and they want me to be part of it somehow by lending my gifts, I'll do that, as long as it's for them to go up, level up.
Right.
But then I also had an idea with my husband that maybe we should focus on the film, even though we're not filmmakers, we don't do any of that. But because I've delved into it a little bit, documentaries especially, and I thought maybe in my house, because I was inspired by what I went to, the event, that instead of the poetry, the usual stuff, we do the singing. How about we just do the visual arts? Like we do film rather.
We do film,
Documentaries, and find all these independent movies that never get to be out there on the broader scale, and movies that put awareness on what really happens in these different countries in this world of ours that we live in. How about we find those movies
And bring a different type of diversity.
and then bring everybody from different
Right.
race groups to come and view these movies, and we can have a discussion after we watch these movies, and just be honest about our discussions as well. So I think that's something to look forward to when it comes to me, besides my music.
I think that's great. I was very excited when you mentioned that idea to me, Tabisa, and when you were going to showcase the film about Winnie Mandela. So I'm looking forward to that series and looking forward to supporting you.
Thank you.
So in the
Thank you.
few minutes that we have left, Thabiza and
Yes.
Isabella, I'd like for you to give us a little bit of music, at least a minute's worth. And Eric, if you could back folks up, if you all can play a little something, that would be great.
Okay.
I know y'all didn't get to prep, but
Yeah.
folks do have instruments in the studio with them, and so it can be done.
We've got the fingers.
Yes.
Exactly.
You know, we
Yes.
can snap away. I don't know what we're gonna do because we didn't really get to rehearse or anything like
No,
that.
we
But
didn't.
you know, we're just gonna sing from the
Spontaneity's
heart.
always
Yeah.
good.
We'll just sing from the heart. If you wanna start the song, please start the song how you feel, and I'll just hop in every now and then. I don't know. We'll see. Whatever you want. Oh, you want me to start it?
We
And I
could
give
do what
you-
we talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's. I
or
think
blend together.
let's do it. And I'll be doing trap music. Yeah.
And
Okay.
let's give it a try.
So what do? Do we give it beats? Okay.
Summertime and the living is easy. Fish are jumping and the cotton is high. Oh, your daddy's rich and your mom is good looking. So hush, little baby, don't you cry.
One of these mornings, you're gonna rise up singing. You're gonna spread your wings, soar to the sky. Until that morning, there ain't nothing that's gonna harm you. With daddy and mommy standing by.
Summertime and the living is easy. Fish are jumping and the cotton high. Oh, your daddy's rich and your mom is good looking.
Pretty like me.
All right now.
So hush, little baby, don't you cry.
So hush, little darling, don't you cry.
So hush, little baby,
Don't
don't
you
cry.
Fabulous! Fabulous! Yes! And my best Andre Talley. Fabulous!
This is fun.
I am amazed. That was
fun.
great.
And
Just
we've never
on.
sang together before.
Well, there you go.
No.
Now you have
Yeah.
an idea of what you sound like
Yes.
together.
And I smell a collaboration.
Yes,
of
a
some
real
sort.
collaboration,
Project,
right?
yes.
Yes.
So, Lisa, what is it that you want people to know about the festival this weekend?
I just think that it's such a fun, freewheeling event in beautiful Edgerton Park, surrounded by nature. There's also a lovely fountain there if you want to just sort of, I don't know if you're really allowed to cool off there, but hopefully it won't be too
May not be the place,
too
but
hot.
hey.
Music is great. It's really music from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night, basically nonstop. There will also be hopefully some musicians playing at the gate, and
Okay.
I want to mention that for the following years, if not this year, that's another way we try to bring diversity. If people want to just lend their talents and showcase at
And if
the
they
event.
want to do that, how do they reach out? How do they
So,
contact you?
This year, what you could do is maybe go to email info@ctfolk.com. We are a nonprofit, so we're in the process of trying to get that .org thing nailed down.
Yeah.
But info@ctfolk.com. Or you, at least if not this year, for following year, because that is a way for us to even bring more into the community. It's kind of a little bit at the late hour, just because the festival is going to be
So late.
on Saturday.
Yeah.
But do come on out, and really, if you've got kids, bring them. If you don't have your own kids, borrow somebody else's, because I think they're really going to have a blast. There is actually also a lot of arts activities, actually with craft tables and things like that. And I don't know, maybe next year, maybe we'll get Crejo to do a mural with some of the kids. That would be kind of fun.
Fabulous.
Yeah. So we'll see. But just come on out and bring your friends and family and hear some great music. Martin Sexton headlighting. Nicole McCule is our festival director, and she's done a great job and really trying to get everybody out. And we'll see you there.
All right. And Mr. Ade, I'm going to give you the last word.
The last word is collaboration. The last word is peace. The last word is harmony. You can take your pick. We all need those in all of our communities. So you make sure that you support each other. Support the Connecticut Folk Fest. Make sure that you go and see Tabisa perform with Eric. Make sure you see Isabella perform. And other arts organizations have lots of beautiful things, and we are here to enrich the community. So, I saw the Elm Shakespeare Company production of Love Labor's Lost.
Yes.
That was last weekend, and that was phenomenal. Yes. And there's so many events going on. Put the phone down, put the computer down, get outside.
Yes, please.
Grab a friend and start patronizing these events so that we can support each other in even stronger ways. The arts are here for you.
Lisa
You can
Kasten.
also check on the Arts Council pages, Greater Arts Council, for information, and Community Foundation. Sorry, you're the last one.
Lisa Kasten, VP Development and Community Outreach for the Folk Festival. Isabella Mendez, vocalist, keyboardist, composer, bossa nova-ist, jazz American-ist, engineer by day, musician by night. Thabiza, community volunteer, educator, performs South African and world music. Eric Ray, kunga player, percussionist, educator, and life coach. And Quejo Ade. I think I got it right?
Quejo Ade.
Quejo Ade. All the accent in the wrong place.
Yes.
Quejo Ade. Visual artist, educator, and community activist. Thank you all so much for bringing your talents and gifts to the show this evening. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And we will see you Saturday. And this has been the show here on WNHH 103.5 FM in New Haven, newhavenindependent.org. We stream, baby. Bye, Harry. We're done.
Yay! Good vibes.
Well, I hope that I did you guys justice.
Oh, yes, you did. It was so.
You are definitely a naturalist.
Yes.
And I think you make us a little more relaxed.
Yes,
because you
definitely.
You're not stressing out about it.
No, definitely.
Well, I think the other thing is, too, what you have to remember is this.